Hi everyone, my name's Nick, and today we're going to be talking about the different types of Shadowspawn, how they're created, what they can do, and what their roles are in the armies of the Dark One. In this video, I will be talking about a lot of creatures that are not introduced or shown until later books, or in the show at all whatsoever so far, but there will be no spoilers for the story, plot, or events in the series. With that, we will start with how Shadowspawn were originally created. In the Age of Legends, Aes Sedai were able to genetically engineer living creatures. These creatures, as a group, were called constructs. Because of the morally gray nature of genetically engineering living things, there were a lot of rules put into place that forbade anyone from working on life more complex than plants. The Aes Sedai, Ishar Morad Chuang, decided that this rule should not apply to him and began performing unauthorized and illegal experiments on humans and animals. The ruling body of the Aes Sedai in this age, the Hall of Servants, forbade Ishar from conducting any more experiments, which he deemed unacceptable. Because of this, Ishar pledged his soul to the Shadow, taking on the name Aginor, and thus being given the title of Forsaken. During the War of Power, Aginor worked to create a soldier for the forces of the Dark One that would be superior to the mere human soldier. After countless failures, he was able to create a human and beast hybrid, which he named Trolloc. Trollocs stand at about 8 to 10 feet tall and have both human and animal features. The animal features that a Trolloc has determine specific traits and abilities that they may get. For example, if a Trolloc has wolf features, they are typically smarter and even able to learn the human language. If they resemble a bear or a boar, they have greater strength, even amongst other Trollocs. Trollocs are cruel and they revel in killing, but they are very fearful and aim to survive above all else. If they believe a risk is too great, like fighting a superior swordsman, a channeler, or crossing a river, then they will elect to run away rather than taking the chance of death. Trollocs will eat anything that is meat, but prefer humans. In the War of Power, human breeding farms were set up in Forsaken controlled lands to allow for a sustainable food source for the Trolloc armies. Trollocs are pretty unique amongst Shadowspawn in that they have actually developed a social order and formed into bands. There's 12 bands, all of them with names like Devil, Demon, Ghoul, etc. These bands will not work together unless forced by something or someone they are afraid of. As I alluded to before, a Trolloc is a pretty poor soldier on their own. While they're extremely strong and bloodthirsty, a semi-skilled human warrior can usually take on a Trolloc one-on-one, especially if they're familiar with fighting Trollocs in the first place, and a Blade Master can kill several at a time. A Myrddraal, however, can change that. Myrddraal are Trolloc spawn, but they are a throwback to the human stock used to create them. In a Myrddraal, the human strain is made stronger, but as a result, so is the Dark One's taint that twists the Trollocs. Myrddraal are described as being like a tall man with black hair and waxy pale skin. The Myrddraal's movements are very fast and often described as serpent-like. They also have no eyes, but are still able to see. Myrddraal are called by many names such as Fade, Lurk, Fetch, and Night Runner, among many others. Being so strongly tainted by the Dark One also gives Fade special abilities. One ability is the Fade's Stare. In the Borderlands, it is said that the look of the eyeless is fear. While it's not 100% reliable for the Fade, men who are not trained as warders or in the Borderlands are very likely to get caught in the Fade's hypnotic stare. This stare will freeze a person in place, allowing the Fade to easily pick them off with no resistance. Being the spawn of Trollocs, Fades are also much stronger than humans, able to pick up a man easily with one hand. Myrddraal can also teleport from shadow to shadow. Aginor experimented and tested over 100 Myrddraal to attempt to find out how they are able to do this, but all his attempts failed to give a definitive answer, and the Myrddraal themselves don't even know. Aginor theorized that the Myrddraal is not entirely in the physical world, shown by the fact that they are untouched by the heaviest of wind and rain and have a misty reflection in mirrors. Lastly, and probably most importantly, a Myrddraal is able to link with Trollocs in a way that allows them to force Trollocs to act. This is the main reason that Trollocs are able to be effective soldiers for the Dark One. Without them, the Trollocs would be nearly uncontrollable on the battlefield. Now, this does come with a downside, because if a Fade is killed, all Trollocs linked to it will also die. Luckily for the Myrddraal though, they are extremely hard to kill and usually require a channeler a Blade Master, an Aiel warrior, overwhelming numbers, or just a ridiculous amount of arrows. Because of this ability to link with the Trollocs and their superior cunning, intelligence, and grasp of tactics, a Fade typically acts as a battle commander. As commanders of the forces of the Dark, Myrddraal are given special blades that are similar to power-wrought weapons in strength, and are tainted so badly that they can kill most men even with the smallest cut. Now, to move away from the battlefield, the Shadow have 3 creatures that are specifically used as assassins. The first being a Grey Man, also known as a Soulless. The Soulless are unique in that they are not constructs like the other Shadowspawn. They are men and women who have given up their body and souls completely to the Dark One and been bestowed with the ability to move virtually unseen. When a person looks at a Grey Man, their eyes are naturally drawn away from them, and a person is even unable to recognize the fact that this is happening. Women are less common amongst the soulless, which is explained as being because women are not as stupid as men to allow their souls to be completely removed from their bodies, but it can happen on occasion. The next of the Shadow's assassin is the Draghkar. Probably the least effective of the 3. Draghkar are described as looking like ordinary men, except that they have large leathery wings, overly large eyes, gaunt cheeks, and a misshapen mouth with deep blood-red lips and sharp pointed teeth. The Draghkar does not kill like other Shadowspawn, with knives, swords, or sheer strength. Instead, they lure in their prey by singing a soft and hypnotic song. The Draghkar will then kiss the person, eating their souls. Only after their soul is completely consumed will the person die. Unfortunately though, even if the Draghkar is killed before their prey is dead, the person being drained will not recover, having had part of their souls consumed by the creature. The last and probably most effective and deadly assassin is the Gholam. These creatures were specifically made by Aginor to assassinate Aes Sedai. A Gholam is completely immune to the one power and virtually all known weapons. Any weave from an Aes Sedai will unravel upon touching the Gholam. The Gholam also do not have a skeletal structure or internal organs, which allows them to be extremely flexible and able to fit through something even as small as a mouse hole. These creatures are incredibly strong too, ripping people's throats out with one hand. The Gholam is so formidable against channelers that Aginor only created 6 total during the War of Power, 3 male and 3 female. Only one of the male Gholam is known to have survived the breaking. Our next Shadowspawn is the Darkhound. These creatures look like pony-sized wolves and are darker than the night with shining silver eyes. Darkhounds are used as hunters for the Shadow, as they are said to be able to outrun any man and never get tired. They also travel in packs, usually numbering 10 to 12, but a pack as large as 50 has been seen to exist, only increasing their deadliness and effectiveness as hunters. The average Darkhound can be killed with normal weapons, but it is extremely difficult. They have an increased ability to heal from even mortal wounds, but balefire and power-wrought weapons can kill these creatures quite effectively. There is also a special, superior subspecies of Darkhound that seems to be only killable with balefire. It's unknown how many of these Darkhounds exist, but we only see this subspecies once through the whole series, so it's probably safe to say that they're very far and few between. The last 3 Shadowspawn are unable to be used in battle. The first creature is the Zomara. I was hesitant to even put this on the list of Shadowspawn, as they are not the twisted constructs in the way of all the other examples, but they are still constructs that were created from human stock in the Age of Legends and are only ever seen serving the Forsaken, so I decided to include them. Zomara look like normal humans, except they have blank, dead eyes. These creatures are unique in that they were made with the sole purpose of serving and have 0 combat ability whatsoever. They lack any real intelligence and can only receive basic commands, but they do have a special ability that allows them to read people's minds. Luckily for the user of the Zomara though, they are unable to communicate what they learn from somebody's thoughts, and anything but a command will be forgotten in just a couple of minutes. The next Shadowspawn on our list is the Forger, also known as the Shadow Forger. These creatures are man-shaped stone entities that only exist in Shai'o Ghul, and if they're transported away, they'll simply turn into a pile of stone or dust. Forgers are also unintelligent. They're easily destroyed by the one power, but they were apparently known to the Aiel and were accounted to become fierce fighters if need be. As the Forger's name implies though, they were made with the sole purpose of creating the Myrddraal's special Thakandar wrought blades. The last Shadowspawn on our list today, and possibly the most terrifying out of any Shadowspawn, is the Jumara, also known as a worm in its juvenile form. The Jumara is unable to be used in battle because it is seemingly uncontrollable. One of the Forsaken, Demandred, speculated that Aginor only created the Jumara to see how horrific of a creature he could possibly create. While we never see a worm or a mature Jumara in the Wheel of Time series, Brandon Sanderson, the author who helped Robert Jordan finish the books after his passing, did release a chapter that was cut from the last book, A Memory of Light, that he called River of Souls. In this chapter, we get to see a mature Jumara, which is described as being easily 100 feet long and covered in spines and tentacles. Going off of this cut chapter, the adult Jumara is only made stronger by direct use of the one power, and it nearly kills Demon Dread himself. It's also thought to be near immortal unless slain, or at the very least extremely long-lived, as they can go into a state of hibernation for many millennia. I'm not too sure whether I would consider this information canon to the Wheel of Time series, but it is interesting and could have easily been a part of the final book, so I wanted to include its depiction in this video. The juvenile Jumara, or worm, that we are introduced to in the Blight are never directly seen. And while the worms are much less dangerous than their mature counterparts, they are still one of the most feared creatures in the Blight, emphasized by the fact that they also hunt in packs. Fortunately for the world, the worms that survive the breaking will never be able to transform into their mature forms, which was outlined by the Forsaken Samael, who said that even though these pre-metamorphic Jumara are fully grown, they will never reach maturity. Samael never states exactly why, but we can infer that what is required by the worm to transform did not survive the breaking. There are possibly more types of Shadowspawns out there, and if you think I missed any that should have been on this list, let me know in the comment section below. I know that there's definitely others that do exist in the high passes of the Mountains of Doom, as the worms were said to be afraid of the creatures that lived up there, but the ones I listed today are what we have seen from the Wheel of Time books and make up the bulk of the Dark One's armies. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and also let me know what other topics of lore you want to see. With that, thank you for watching.